afternoon. A 60-year-old man is right now in hospital after being shot during a violent home invasion in Melbourne's northwest. Paul Darsley is in Melbourne for us with the very latest. Paul, good afternoon. What do we know at the moment?
Tash, he wasn't just shot. We understand he was also stabbed and bashed, and that he is recovering from recent open heart surgery. He was here with who we understand to be his wife in the home behind me about 1:30 this morning when a car has pulled up outside. 4 offenders have got out. They have stormed inside the house, broken through one of the doors to get inside and confronted this couple. They have then shot the man in the upper body. They've also pointed the gun at that woman, the 57-year-old, who was also inside the home here in Gladstone Park, as the man actually tried to fight back, and he really did cop it worst. They were pleading with them to take whatever they wanted, but those offenders were not here to take anything. It seems they were instead here to deliver something, and that is a message to the family. Police say this was, they understand, targeted, but we're told that the couple themselves weren't the target, but more broadly that this is connected potentially to the wider family, someone who has a history with police. There were screams in the street. It was quite chaotic, is how it's been described by one neighbour. They say this is not a troublesome house in the street. Police aren't here at all, but this morning they are stunned.
Police are urgently hunting an armed attacker on the run after stabbing at a home in the city's northwest. A man in his 60s was attacked during a home invasion on Trentham Drive in Gladstone Park around 1:30 this morning. He's been taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The circumstances surrounding the attack are still under investigation.
Melbourne families are increasingly arming themselves in response to the soaring number of home invasions. Legal experts say they're well within their rights to fight back, but self-defence has its limits.
He slept with a baseball bat under his bed for 3 years, but Aaron Monk never thought he'd actually have to use it. On Monday, he and his fiancée were woken by an intruder.
I didn't really have a chance to think. It was, fight or flight.
He came face to face with the thief in the kitchen.
I instantly jumped out of bed and grabbed a baseball bat, stormed through the door. I yelled at him and said, "You've picked the wrong house, mate."
The father didn't think twice.
I would have taken a swing. It's, that was a non-negotiable. It's protecting the family.
Across the state, aggravated burglaries are up by 18%.
It's becoming a time where everyone's now starting to arm themselves.
Legal experts say Mr Monk was well within his rights.
If you've got a bat in your hand and they come at you, you're entitled to defend yourself.
But self-defence has its limits.
What you're not entitled to do is chase them down the driveway and use the bat then as a weapon.
7 News has been told police are now investigating if the aggravated burglary is linked to 2 others in the area that happened on the same morning and within the same time frame. A firm final message.
Don't come back.
We begin this half hour in Melbourne southeast, where police have arrested 2 teenagers following a string of armed robberies. It's alleged a masked gang in a stolen Mercedes targeted small businesses and service stations in a 48-hour rampage. Jacqueline Stanley has the latest.
Karina, this trio were violent and busy overnight, using knives, hammers and metal poles to threaten business owners and their staff. In Narre Warren at 6 o'clock last night, the thieves are caught loading up their boot outside a kebab shop. The crime spree began Tuesday night, the gang hitting a Werribee tobacconist, a convenience store, then a Truganina McDonald's and BP, followed by 6 more service stations. They struck again Wednesday night, targeting a fast food outlet, a liquor store, 3 petrol stations, 2 more fast food restaurants, then another 5 service stations after that. The group also held up a family pizza restaurant in Oakley East, only stopped by a witness who bravely intervened. Then 10 minutes later at this pizza shop on Huntingdale Road, one of the offenders becomes frustrated when the till is largely empty. Investigators are adding these 12 different locations overnight to 8 others the night before. This crime spree spanning 2 days came to an end this morning when police caught 2 of the offenders in Pakenham and seized the stolen Mercedes they were travelling in. Police have 2 offenders in custody. A third escaped the scene on.
Melbourne reporter Isabella Stashkovsky, who is at the scene for us in South Yarra. Isa, good morning to you. So what do we know so far?
Well, we know there were reports last night around 11 o'clock of a man targeting this business here on Toorak Road, and then reports of a firebombing. But when police got here, they found no trace of that man, and this morning they continue that hunt. We're on busy Toorak Road. This is the corner of Toorak Road and Caroline Street. You can see that police are set up here and will remain here for much of the morning. The business in question, Aesthetica, it is a skin clinic, and as you say, a popular skin clinic here on busy Toorak Road. There is some extensive damage to the front and the interior of that business. It's certainly hard to see in the dark at the moment. So around 11:15, they believe that this all unfolded, this firebombing, in control pretty quickly after that though. So this morning that hunt continues. Plenty of CCTV in the area, but police are asking anyone who may witness something to come forward as they continue that investigation.
Isa, thank you.
It's been revealed a Queensland teen accused of shoplifting and assaulting a group of women had walked free from court just moments before the alleged attack. Let's go live to Today reporter Andrea Crothers. Andrea, the magistrate had some blunt feedback for the teen.
He sure did, Ali. How hard is it? They're the words from a frustrated magistrate as he denied that 15-year-old bail, further saying you'd promised to do something as simple as not commit further offences. You can't be, you are an unacceptable risk in the community. This was after that teen had been released on a probation order for property offences. Moments later, allegedly going into a convenience store, attempting to steal 3 vapes, and that's when this major scuffle unfolded. Confronted by a shop worker who he allegedly hits over the head. Other shoppers, they intervene. Eventually, he is detained by an off-duty police officer. Now, the 15-year-old boy's mother was actually in court yesterday, made a personal plea to the magistrate to release him on bail. That was ultimately rejected. He is due to head back to court next month, Ali.
Good evening. A brave elderly shopper has taken the law into his own hands, fighting off a gang of armed thugs in Chelsea Heights. It was one of almost a dozen robberies across Melbourne in a wild 10-hour crime spree.
As a hooded gang armed with blades terrorised supermarket staff, one brave customer fought back, charging at the group of 5 despite the risk of serious injury, trying to grab them. But the man in his 70s ended up being attacked on the ground. The armed robbery at Chelsea Heights, one of almost a dozen in a 10-hour crime spree across the suburbs, carried out by 2 groups, desperate for cash, cigarettes and alcohol.
It's really not safe and quite scary that it happened.
The same thugs stormed into several other supermarkets, including this one in Wantirna South, again waving long blades as they raided cigarette cupboards, loading up an SUV. The shop was also robbed Tuesday last week by what appears to be the same group. Late yesterday, another gang in a stolen Audi targeted service stations, and this bottle shop. Nguyen Tony was on duty when the Audi pulled in.
They just open the till.
A blade was concealed in the sleeve of one thief.
It's held the knife on my tummy, but didn't touch me. Didn't hurt me.
They filled a bag with spirits and took the cash drawer.
Roughly more than 1,000 cash.
His customers left furious.
Get a life, get a job, and hard-working, respected people like this, they don't deserve this, mate.
All up, 11 shops were raided by the 2 groups, working independently of each other. The first gang spree was across 6 hours. Then there was 1 hour of peace before the second gang took over for 4 robberies on the other side of the bay across 3 hours. Police later spotted their Audi in Tarneit and tracked it from the air until they dumped it in Footscray. Only the second group was arrested. 3 of the 4, teenagers. Paul Dowsley, 7 News.
A man in Queensland has been sentenced for defending his home from an invasion using pepper spray. Yeah, That's the non-lethal can of irritant, which can be quite unpleasant. That is the whole point after all. But it is also infinitely less likely to kill somebody than a baseball bat or even a fist. The man lived in Mackay and used the spray after his window had been broken and someone was trying to gain illegal entry into his home. The magistrate told the man, who is called the offender but is actually the victim of a real crime, breaking and entering, that his actions were a misconceived attempt by you to protect your property. No. With all due respect, there is nothing misconceived about using non-lethal force to protect your home from an unknown but certainly illegal home invasion. And I've said it before, but I'll say it again, that when the police and the courts behave like this, they are actually protecting the criminals by violently disarming the criminals' victims. And the hypocrisy is rank because, as I covered in a video a week or so ago, people like opposition leader Susan Lee support the disarming of law-abiding Australians while they enjoy the peace of mind of armed security, and in Susan's case, when she personally used a semi-automatic rifle for her own self-protection when she was a younger woman. You can watch episode 119 of the Topher Project for more on that. And this is no laughing matter, because what's seemingly being missed in all of this outrage about this Mackay man possessing and using pepper spray is that it worked. It protected him and his home. My name's Topher Field, this is the Topher Project, and I help busy Australians to keep up with the world as it changes around us. I am 100% viewer supported. I don't have any advertisers or sponsors, although I'm hoping that one day I will. So far, none have been brave enough. So please help to keep the Topher Project going by buying me a coffee via the button at topherfield.net, and be sure to check out my best-selling books about human rights and civil disobedience, along with my multi-award-winning DVD, Battleground Melbourne, and my t-shirts and hoodies and more at goodpeoplebreakbadlaws.com. Contrast this criminal prosecution of this homeowner who defended himself with pepper spray with the news from Victoria just yesterday that yet another innocent person is in hospital with stab wounds after his home, where he didn't have pepper spray, was invaded by numerous assailants. And Victoria, or in Victoria rather, the run of machete attacks does not even seem to be slightly slowing down, despite Premier Jacinta Allen's ban on machete sales, and just recently a 33-year-old man has lost his hand to what appears to have been an attempted phone robbery at the Central Square shopping centre in Altona. Now, his arm was badly damaged by one of the attackers and was later amputated completely in surgery. The people responsible for that attack were in their mid-teens, just 14 and 15 years of age. And on the same day, also in Victoria, another 17-year-old boy was stabbed in a completely separate incident. Need I mention the carjackings and the shop invasions to go along with this rhythm of supermarket shopping centre stabbings? This is happening Australia-wide, and in most of Australia, we're not even allowed the most basic non-lethal means of self-defence. And as this Queensland case proves, firstly, having pepper spray helps. And secondly, if you do provide for your own self-defence, you will end up on charges yourself. The police, on the other hand, well, they aren't just given the benefit of lethal forms of self-defence, including guns, but also a suite of less lethal and non-lethal options, including tasers and, yes, pepper spray. And they have the benefit of body armour and usually arriving in pairs or packs. They have every single advantage. Thing is, they always arrive at the crime scene well after the crime has started, and often after the crime has ended, which means that criminals can be confident that their victims are disarmed thanks to the police, and as long as they don't hang around too long after a crime, they are unlikely to ever have to face the police. The police and courts are literally running a protection racket for violent criminals, making sure that they get home from work safely without any undue risk of being harmed by one of the people that they are harming. And whenever someone like me says that we should absolutely 100% allow Australians to carry weapons for the purpose of their own self-defence, the objection is always twofold. Firstly, the criminals will get the weapons as well. Newsflash, they already have them. And the second objection is, but what about the safety of the police officers? The police don't want to have to risk getting shot or stabbed or some such thing. And because of that fear, the need to protect the police, that they might show up 20 minutes after a crime has been committed and there might be an offender that they have to face who's armed. And because of that fear, the rest of us, the ones who are the actual prospective victims of crime, we get disarmed completely. We have to face the armed offenders completely disarmed in some misguided attempt to protect police officers. But because the criminals ignore the weapons laws completely, now the victims, well, we're the only ones disarmed, and we're getting stabbed and shot while we wait for the armed police to show up. We are denied guns, tasers, and even pepper spray in most of Australia, so that the people who are allowed guns, tasers, pepper spray, and body armour don't have to risk getting hurt. But the thing is, the people who aren't supposed to have weapons, the criminals, well, they have weapons and they can't get hurt by their victims either. So the police and the criminals are the only ones being kept safe. And the victims of the stabbings, the home invasions, the carjackings, etc., well, we're just collateral damage. We are an acceptable loss in the pursuit of safety for the police and the criminals. And if one of us common folk who aren't special enough to get a badge or a gun, or politically high up enough to get private federal police security details, if we decide that this arrangement is unacceptable and that our human rights are being violated for the protection of criminals and the government, but I repeat myself, and then we do actually make preparations for our own self-defense, well, then the government makes sure that we pay for it. In the case of this unfortunate Mackay man who used pepper spray to protect himself and his home, the magistrate said you should know the law and know that these things are prohibited. No, they shouldn't be prohibited. And it is, in my opinion, the people who are actively disarming the victims of crime for the protection of the criminals who are criminals themselves, whether they wear a badge or a wig. And as bad as the situation in Queensland is, and as poor as this magistrate's attitude is, and it is pretty bad, a magistrate in Victoria has found a way to go one better, in a way that I hope will never be outdone in Australia ever. You may have heard the news about a year ago about a young violent offender who had hundreds of charges dropped because of his age. He was 14. Despite the fact that he kept up his violent offending over multiple rounds of being caught, bailed, going back to his violent ways, being caught, bailed, going back to his violent ways, and so on. Well, this charming individual is now 15, and he was back before Victorian Magistrate Gail Hubble, once again charged for offences while on bail. Not only did Magistrate Hubble bail this person again, she explicitly did not apply any supervision orders to him because she stated outright that he simply wouldn't comply with them. This is someone who has admitted to 6 burglaries, 14 car thefts, 4 robberies, 3 shop break-ins, and a partridge in a pear tree. He has collected the whole set, and he's kept doing more every time he's been released on bail. Magistrate Hubble literally said she's lost count of how many times I've given him bail. Now, to us dim-witted, unwashed masses, we might be tempted to think that if you already know that someone won't comply with bail conditions, that might be a really, really good reason to not give them bail. But oh no, Magistrate Hubble knows better than you or I. She knows that the right thing to do when a repeat violent offender with no respect for the public and no respect for the justice system, who is dead set certain to break bail conditions, the right response from the justice system is to simply not impose any bail conditions, because that way they can't get broken. Clever, right? I know, I wouldn't have thought of that either. And now this individual is back out in public, surrounded by people who are disarmed by our government, our politicians, our police, and our courts, not for their own protection, but for the protection of these violent thugs. The hardest part about this story for me is that this is not the first time I've talked about this. This video about how we need more than just capsicum spray is from last month, and I've been talking about this for well over 10 years now. And with the wave of violent crime that we're seeing Australia-wide, this will not be the last time I talk about it either. I don't know what it's going to take to get Australians to no longer accept being disarmed by our police and our courts. What's it going to take for us to stand up for our human right to self-defence? Our taxes are paying for the police and the courts who disarm us for the protection of criminals, and then we pay again for the justice system that keeps releasing the same criminals back onto our streets so that they can prey upon more disarmed victims. And then the police have the temerity to show up 20 minutes after the fact with their pepper spray and tasers and guns and body armour and ask the victim of violent crime, what happened? I'll tell you what happened. We trusted you. We believed you when you said, hey, you don't need weapons, we will protect you. And then you didn't. You couldn't. And thanks to you, we can't protect ourselves either. I don't know how this gets fixed, but I do know that the current situation is completely unacceptable because the victims are ending up in hospital or dead and the violent thugs are getting off scot-free, and that is exactly the opposite of how it should be. Tell me in the comments what you think is going to happen from here. How does this get fixed? Because honestly, I don't know. Australians just keep asking the government to fix their problems instead of recognising that the government is their problem. And I don't know how we're going to fix this one. My name's Topher Field. This is the Topher Project, and I am 100% viewer supported. So please buy me a coffee via the button at topherfield.net so I can stay caffeinated and angry, because that's where I do my best work. And check out my best-selling books on civil disobedience. There's Good People Break Bad Laws, all about government, human rights, and civil disobedience in the modern age. Then there's my second book, Good Christians Break Bad Laws, all about the theology of civil disobedience. Plus there's my multi-award-winning DVD, Battleground Melbourne, which is all about how my fellow Victorians pushed back against Daniel Andrews when he turned into a petty tyrant during COVID. Then there's my t-shirts and hoodies in a range of designs, all available from goodpeoplebreakbadlaws.com. Thank you for watching to the end. Tell me in the comments how you think we can fix this problem. Please like, subscribe, and as always, think free.